Where do we expect the wage bill to be at once we have implemented this policy? Now, what I'd like to say is if you're to recall the slide that was presented at the end that talks about the expected outcomes, when we talked about what is our expected outcomes, and I would like to emphasize that because it's very important to say, why are we going through this process? What are our expected outcomes? And we have 6 of them. The first one was to do with minimizing disparities in gross remuneration package. So to us, that is an impact on wage bill. You are minimizing disparities because we have disparities. Why is this important? Because it's one of the constitutional principles of pay determination. One of the principles talks about fairness and transparency. And the other principle, which is clearly stated in the SRC Act, is the equal pay for work of equal value. So it is answering to that constitutional and principle, and the principle in the Act. So that is one expected outcome, minimize disparities. We also talked about to attain the desired proportion of basic salary to gross salary to be not less than 60%. Now, just to explain, and I know there is a question that touches on that, so I'll take it together, is at the moment, on average, we have about 48% on average, 48% allowances on average. In other words, if you take your gross pay today, on average, 48% would be allowances. However, we have institutions that pay as high as 100% or even more than 100, where if you take allowances, allowances constitute more than 100% of basic salary. So the disparities are huge when we look at institution to institution. What also that means is that we've got institutions where the total pay, if you look at basic salary, the basic salary is almost 40%. So that's the disparity we are talking about, and hence the desired position to have a 60-40, which then has an impact both in terms of the wage bill and to the employee themselves. If I speak of the employee, if my total pay, 40% is basic and the rest is allowance, definitely in terms of pension, when you retire with a much, much lower pension. So it has a clear impact even on the employee when the basic salary is very, very low. And that is where we see in some institutions. On the other hand, if you've got a very large percentage of your pay in allowances, there is a lot of unpredictability in the wage bill. Because allowances are less, it is not easy to control allowances. They are less controllable. And therefore, the issue of predictability in management of the wage bill comes in. So that is why we have that 60-40 as an important one. We also emphasized the outcome of entrenching the relative worth of a job as determined by job evaluation. Just let me expound a little bit what we mean by that. Today, when we talk about pay in the public sector, in most cases, people will tell you about basic salary. If you say today, what do we pay this particular profession? You will only be told about basic salary. But what you are not being told is there are other 40, 60, 100% that is actually pay. Because remember, for us, what we want to do in this third remuneration cycle is that your relative worth of job is everything that you're being paid. It's not just basic salary. So we will therefore be looking at total pay as the basis for this third remuneration review cycle. So that's what it is talking about, is the relative worth of job. It's not just about a basic salary, but we will be able to look at a total pay. Then there were other benefits that may not need a lot of deliberations. Elimination of duplication, redundancy, disparities, all that definitely has an impact on the wage bill. If you eliminate the disparities, it means, and you will have seen in the policy, that there are specific allowances that are being abolished. So will it have an impact on the wage bill? Definitely. If you abolish an allowance, it means that there is a direct impact. And then the very important outcome of embedding control mechanisms to ensure prudent management of financial resources as by the Constitution and PFM Act 2012. That is a real key outcome of this policy, that we are embedding a control mechanism. I mean, if you go through the 10 policy statements, they are all aiming at embedding those controls. Then lastly, attain predictability and remuneration and planning management. So the benefit is not about us giving you a specific number and say the wage bill will reduce by this. But if you take all what the 6 expected outcomes in totality, yes, we expect to see better management of the wage bill, but we don't have a specific number because remember, it's going to be a journey.